Well, good afternoon, students. This is Ryan Deal, your instructor here for AP Economics Online with Virtual Virginia. And today we are going to be talking about equilibrium, price, and quantity. Now, first thing to know about equilibrium, price, and quantity is the definition of equilibrium. Equilibrium is the price and output level where the supply and demand curves intersect. So throughout this entire course, we've been talking about supply and demand in each one in their own separate way, but equilibrium is the value for both price and output where these two curves intersect. In a free market economy, this will be the price and output dictated by the market. This is what the price will naturally be. This is what the output will naturally be. And this is easier to visualize on a graph, so let me go ahead to this picture of a graph. Now you've all seen this before, the red upward sloping supply curve, the blue downward sloping demand curve. This point right here is the equilibrium value. As you can see, the price that will be paid on average is right there, and the quantity that will be supplied is right there. And the reason for this is you can tell at this point on, let's say, the demand curve, if the price is, where'd my cursor go? There we go, alright. If the price is right up here, then not very many people are going to demand it. You're only going to have this many. Not many people are going to be willing to pay for product X at this price. But if the price is all the way down here, the same small amount of people will be willing to supply it. But if you go up to here on the supply curve, this is all still the same thing depending on price. These are all possible scenarios, is what the supply and demand curves represent. This is just the point where they intersect for our economy, creating the equilibrium output. So how can equilibrium be modified? To go over this, I'll be using this applet here from bized.co.uk. Works excellently. A supply increase will cause equilibrium output to increase and will cause equilibrium price to decrease. Now let's see what happens here. This, I believe, is the one that increases supply. So let's just try increasing the supply curve. Alright, now give it some time to catch up. Alright, and this is the new value. See the demand curve, still downward sloping, and the supply curve still intersects with the demand curve. It's two lines that will intersect because their slopes are opposite of each other. But at this new equilibrium value, see the original one. The quantity bought and sold, actually you can check that here. The quantity supplied is 80, and the price is 5. But at this new equilibrium value with an increase in supply, the quantity bought and sold is 63 as opposed to the 50 here? Yeah, 50 here. And the price is only 338. So as I said here, a supply increase causes equilibrium output to increase and will cause equilibrium price to decrease. And really, that just makes sense. This supply increase will cause equilibrium output to increase. And this reduces scarcity. Scarcity, which is the guiding value of economics. So, you've learned about supply. Now let's move on to demand. A demand increase will cause an increase in equilibrium output and an increase in equilibrium price. Let's check out the demand applet. Let's watch what happens when we increase demand. Alright, let's wait for it to catch up. We're moving from our new equilibrium point right here, or our old equilibrium point, sorry, to our new one right up here. Now the original point was price of 5. I don't know why it's saying quantity demanded of 85. That's really just not accurate. Oh, maybe it's saying if that price stays constant. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, so the original quantity bought and sold was 50, and the price was 5. But as demand has increased, as basically it has become more popular with consumers, there's more of a need to purchase it, price has increased, and quantity bought and sold has also increased to just above 70. 71 it looks like, and price has increased to 729. And this also, when you just think about it from a rational point of view, makes sense. As people want more of it, businesses are able to charge more for it, and the output increases because more people are buying more of it. Now, economics is a complex thing, so let's go over some complex issues. What if both shift? Because demand and supply do not work independently of each other. Sometimes there are going to be situations where both demand and supply shift. Oh, and by the way, students, if I'm going too fast for you, just remember you can always go back, watch this video again. It will be available, and just feel free to go back, pause, rewind, go over this again just to make sure that you have this locked down, because this is very important throughout economics. So, if both supply and demand shift, the type of increase or decrease in output or price depends on the amount of increase or decrease in each component. If we're looking over here, Say demand just drops off entirely, and supply stays constant, but oh, you can't move the supply graph at the same time. But the supply graph is still up here. If supply increases and demand decreases, let's see. Well, for both of these values, price has decreased. But with the supply increase, that causes quantity bought and sold to increase, and this causes quantity bought and sold to decrease. So honestly, it's impossible to tell exactly without having exact figures, because at least one of them will be different. In a situation like this where demand decreases, supply increases, you can be certain that the price will drop. You cannot state with certainty the quantity bought and sold in that change unless you were given an exact number. Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's say demand and supply both increase. In this situation, the quantity bought and sold increases from the original value of 50 to 71 again. I think I shifted it to the same exact thing. That's very strange. And the price here also increases to 726. But going back down here, we said that price decreased, even though the quantity bought and sold did still increase. So in this case, you could say with certainty the quantity bought and sold increases, but you cannot state anything with certainty about the price. Let's try one more. Let's drop supply off the face of the earth. There's a horrible shortage going on. Oh no! In this case, you can state with certainty that price increases, but you can't say with certainty the difference in quantity bought and sold. And in this final situation where both supply and demand decrease, then you're looking at a value where you can only determine that the quantity bought and sold will decrease. The market will just overall be smaller. Where the price is up to the exact numbers. And that may have been confusing, but again, you can go back and watch it. It helps to organize this into a chart if you're one of the people that thinks in charts. And let's move on to some practice problems. Consider a free market economy for funnel cakes. Get your funnel cakes here! Sorry for that voice, students. If the price of mysterious frying grease that they use to cook funnel cakes decreases, what will happen to the equilibrium price and output for funnel cakes? So let's think this over using economic basics. If the price of the mysterious frying grease, that is a component of supply. So a decrease in price will cause the supply to increase. So let's go to our little supply applet here. Alright, let's backspace to reset it. So the price decreases, this causes supply to increase. And what do you know? As supply increases, quantity bought and sold increases and price decreases because, again, more is being supplied. So there's less scarcity and there's more on the market that people are able to buy. Because at this lower price, due to less scarcity, it is more popular for consumers. Instead of having to pay these $5, they only have to pay $4. So you can say for practice 1 that a decrease in the price of the mysterious frying grease would cause equilibrium price to decrease and equilibrium output to increase. Great job. Alright, practice problem 2. Consider a free market economy for funnel cakes again. Now, if the entire consumer population realizes that putting a funnel cake into your body is just begging for cardiac arrest, what will happen to the equilibrium price and output for funnel cakes? This seems like a demand shift. This seems like a consumer taste shift to me. If the entire consumer population is finally aware of the fact that your product is just horrible for people's health and will probably kill them eventually if overconsumed, they will probably want to consume it less. So this seems like a demand shift that will cause a downward shift in demand. Although it looks like we had just had a downward shift. I like watching graphs animate, so let's do that again. Drops to there because there's still going to be some population that eats funnel cakes. Now at this point, you see that the price has decreased and the quantity bought and sold has decreased. This fact that people are realizing there is an increased risk of health problems from fried dough and powdered sugar is causing the price to decrease. These producers are selling it for less because people aren't willing to buy it at this price anymore. This, if you wanted to sell it for $5, you would have to shift your supply to here. And if you're only producing 30, then it doesn't work on a supply curve. So the new supply curve point is below, quantity demanded has decreased, and price has also decreased because people aren't willing to pay as much because of the shift in consumer tastes. So, answering the final question, equilibrium price, down, equilibrium output, down. Let's move on to the third practice problem. We've just got to make it complex here. Consider a free market economy for funnel cakes. This seems familiar. Suppose that an embargo on mysterious Greece causes funnel cakes to rise in popularity due to counterculture movements against the embargo. So funnel cakes are like the Cuban cigars of this fantasy world. What will happen to equilibrium, price, and output? Well, the easiest way to do this is to break it down into each of its separate components. So the embargo on mysterious Greece is what? It's a shift in the supply of the components. This means that the amount of the component for funnel cakes, the grease, is going to decrease, causing supply overall to decrease. Let's go back down to our supply applet here. Supply is going to drop. And a drop in supply, as you surely know by this point, causes price to increase due to the shortage and causes the quantity bought and sold to decrease because there's just less of it out there. Now let's look at the other aspect. They also increase in popularity. This is the exact opposite of the last practice problem we did. The popularity of funnel cakes is actually increasing because, I guess, maybe it is the same thing with cigars. People are willing to overlook the health problems because it's just so cool. So, the popularity is increasing, causing demand overall to increase. Scrolling back up to the demand goes up to here. And let's watch as the equilibrium shifts. In this case, price has increased and quantity bought and sold has also increased. So comparing that to down here, I'm also pretty sure I said price had decreased here last time, sorry. But price increased, quantity decreased, and in our demand one, price increased, quantity increased. This means that the only thing that they have in common is the increase in price. So we can be certain that price will increase, but until we know by exactly what proportion the how much cooler it became, how much of the grease supply was cut off, we aren't going to be able to determine how the quantity bought and sold will change. And oftentimes you may get a question like this, and it is perfectly acceptable to answer that you don't have enough information to solve the problem. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for an understanding of the concept. They're not always looking for a black and white correct answer. They're just looking for your understanding of the concept. So for this one, you could say equilibrium price will increase, and the change in equilibrium output cannot be determined without more information. And that is an acceptable answer. And that is the end of the slideshow. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a pager message. And until then, just remember, study hard for this.